Later today, members of the House Oversight Committee are scheduled to tour a jail in Washington where defendants charged with crimes related to the January 6th insurrection are being held. Republican Committee Chair James Comer will not take part, he says, due to a family event back home in Kentucky. But committee member Marjorie Taylor Greene, who previously visited that facility, has criticized the detainment of the January 6th defendants, calling for their release, tweeting she will lead the group, calling it a, quote, bipartisan delegation. But our next guest explains why it is a bipartisan visit. Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. She is one of 2 Democratic members of Congress who will visit that jail later today. She'll be joined as well by Congresswoman Summer Lee of Pennsylvania. Congresswoman, thanks for your time this morning. So I'll let you explain it, but the way I understand it, you're sort of there as a chaperone to the Republicans to make sure that when they come back and tell the story of what happened today, tell the story of what you all see, that your version of the truth will be there as well. Do I have that right?
You absolutely have that right. Listen, we know that these MAGA Republicans have a problem with the truth. In fact, that's why we are coddling these January 6th insurrectionists. I'm just a freshman, so I watched January 6th from afar, unlike what so many of my colleagues experienced. And the fact that they want to go in and these people, some of them which were attempting murder, and they want to have a conversation about how comfortable they are. They want to have a conversation about whether or not their iPads are working or if they have enough time on their iPads. This is what I'm hearing. As someone who's been a public defender, let me tell you something. They know nothing about what bad conditions are. And I'm going to clarify that after I can see with my own 2 eyes. But in the state of Texas, we don't even have air conditioning in our prisons, and we are once again in the state of Texas. So we've had inmates die from overheating. The idea that these folks somehow should engage in a real conversation now that January 6ers, mostly white folk, are saying that these accommodations don't work for them, when Black and brown folk have been trying to have a real conversation around what prison accommodations should look like if we are just going to be humane, is laughable. So I look forward to this visit, and I look forward to reporting out on the accommodations and whether or not they are subpar.
So, Congresswoman, just thinking in line of Trumpist and Trump himself and how he handles the media, I'm curious what the plan is here, especially as you put it, these MAGA Republicans try and do this tour and whatever else they're going to do. Perhaps you could share with us what the plans are. But how do you make sure you don't validate exactly what they're doing and bring more light to it?
Yeah, here's the deal. We know that Marjorie Taylor Greene and crew, they already have a large microphone. It doesn't matter if we were there or not. We know that the media is going to cover anything that they do. But the problem is that if no one were to show up, then there's no one to counter, and there's absolutely no one to tell the truth about what was going on behind bars. We won't be allowed to have our cell phones. So our truth will be whatever it is that we recall it to be. And just like they have said time and time again that this was a tour, this wasn't an insurrection. We need to make sure that someone is there to tell an actual account of what the historical nature of this visit really showed. We also know that there's some choir that they have, and they're on iTunes or something. These folk are not being treated like the average inmates. And unfortunately, what I fully anticipate we're going to see is yet another level of privilege. So my job is to make sure that I report the truth. My job is to also hold them accountable. We've got our appropriations processes going on right now. We actually are submitting for a community project investment that would update one of the jails in my district, a jail that hasn't had an update since the 1980s. We're talking about an intercom system that is failing inmates when they need to communicate about a health care issue for them. We are actually trying to make sure that we're giving the basic needs in my district. So I look forward to their support on this. I also want to make it clear that while they're talking about these conditions, the January 6ers at least arrived at the jail. In this country, if we want to have a real conversation, let's have a robust conversation. Let's talk about George Floyd. Let's talk about Sandra Bland, who was taken into custody in the state of Texas for a traffic violation and somehow ended up dead. We can have a real conversation. But before I start to say what is or isn't going on in this jail, I've got to see it myself. So I'm not here to validate that there's anything problematic, because I can guarantee you that at a very minimum, they have air conditioning.
Yeah, and again, here you have people who beat the hell out of cops with American flags, their families saying they died because of the rioters, and they're actually bitching and moaning about their iPads in jail. Yeah, you're exactly right. And we thank you for being with us.
Yeah,
thank you for going today. I hope you'll come back.
Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas.
Report, Congresswoman, about what you see there.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, thank you. You too. And John Heilman, again, I'm not repeating myself. I'm just stating facts. They put another block. They put another brick in the wall, these Republicans. And the another brick in the wall, you stack them up, and it's the wall they build that keeps them away from the swing voters they keep losing, the suburban voters they keep losing. But look what Republicans are doing. Again, they keep adding to the list. Just in the last 24 hours, you've had a former president who's the head of their party right now, the most popular person in their party right now, threatening violence against a district attorney with a baseball bat. You have him promising death and destruction if he gets charged with a misdemeanor. Death and destruction. You have Republican members of Congress going to praise rioters, people that beat the hell out of cops with baseball bats. You've got Republican senators who still haven't taken it back. Republican senators who say they wish our military were more like Russia's military. You have another top Republican who's probably running for president, who actually is quoting Kremlin talking points this past week when he said that Russia's bloody invasion of Ukraine, that the ICC have said, constitutes war crimes, is nothing more than a border dispute. Again, I could keep going, but this is just like in the last, most of this is just in the last week. And they sit here and they wonder why they've lost every election since 2016.
Yeah, Trump, you remember, Joe, Trump said, there's going to be so much winning, they're going to get tired of winning. Seems like the opposite's true. There's been so much losing, they haven't gotten yet tired of losing. Look, I agree with everything you just said. They keep walking the plank for Donald Trump, and I'll say the one thing, and I know we got to get out here. There's a hard out we're getting to, but the thing that's popped out from that last Truth Social post of his when he calls Alvin Bragg, I believe, a degenerate psychopath, and as always, my favorite phrase: everything that Donald Trump says is either projection or confession. I think you can imagine which one degenerate psychopath qualifies for in that formulation.
You have to wonder. John Heilman, thank you very much for being on this morning. We appreciate it.